Welcome back, everybody. In our last post, we discussed how behavior acts as a form of communication, influenced by 5 needs: safety, comfort, autonomy, belonging, and competency. These unmet needs influence behavior through influencing motivation. In order to help students manage their behavior, we have to positively influence students' motivation. And that is what we're going to talk about today. So understanding motivation. Motivation is the engine behind behavior. It's derived from the Latin root moto, meaning to move, which happens to be the same root word of emotion. Coincidence? I think not. Motivation, emotion. Ancient philosophers saw a close relationship between emotions and motivation, believing emotions influence both motivation and behavior. And I think they were right? So think of it like this. This is the sailboat analogy. This is my favorite analogy to describe behavior. If behavior is the sailboat, it's what we can see. Behavior is the sailboat. Motivation is the wind, motivation, wind, that propels the sailboat forward. So motivation propels, I'm trying to think of a propel sound, like a, it propels the behavior forward. Emotions are the weather. Emotions determine the intensity and the direction of the wind. Mind blown. Let me say that again. Behavior is the sailboat. Motivation is the wind. Emotions are the weather. It's genius. So how emotions drive motivation? Emotions influence motivation in 3 ways. Intensity, stronger emotions generate stronger motivations, leading to more intense behaviors. Priority, emotional urgency prioritizes certain behaviors over others. Persistency, the more emotionally charged a situation is, the more persistent the behavior is going to be. So behavior as a response. Understanding that emotions heavily influence motivation allows us to see behavior as a response to emotional states rather than isolated incidences or choice actions. The perspective can drastically change how we physiologically and emotionally react to students' behaviors, increasing the chances of an empathetic response instead of a stress response, and how we can prevent it. So I want to talk a little bit more about that empathetic response because it's super, super, super important. Empathy is the antithesis to fight or flight. Let me say that again. Empathy is the antithesis to fight or flight. Antithesis? I think I'm saying that word right. Empathy produces oxytocin. Oxytocin is the chemical that our body produces when we feel connectivity, when we feel connected to someone. The stress response is cortisol and adrenaline. Okay? If we have oxytocin going through our system, it's less likely that it's going to be producing cortisol at the same time. That means that if we can empathetically react to something that typically stresses us out, we will diminish the stress response to that stimuli or to that situation, that person, that problem. If we can reprogram our response to be more empathetic, then we can prevent the stress response from happening. And that's why everybody is toting relationships in the classroom. That's why you see so many videos that make fun of principals that bring the kid back and say, "Did you build a relationship with them?" It's actually a really smart strategy, because when you build a relationship with somebody, they are less likely to trigger your fight or flight. And if they're less likely to trigger your fight or flight, you're more likely to respond to them or to a situation they're causing or are in with a rational, intelligent, or thoughtful response. It's when we act out of fight or flight that's when we damage relationships, overpromise on consequences, yell. That's where we react, and we end up escalating the situation and making it worse. So when you see that video of a very prominent principal influencer saying that the first thing that new principals learn is to not bring the kid back and ask, "Did you build a relationship with them?" You can roll your eyes like I did, because building a relationship literally influences the chemical reaction that you're going to have during a stress response when you're in a situation with that student. If you don't have a relationship, you're going to go into fight or flight. So it's actually a really intelligent strategy, and it really ticked me off, but whatever. I digress. Empathy. Empathy, empathy, empathy. Oxytocin, oxytocin, oxytocin. So, to recap, the sailboat analogy. Behavior is what we can see. It's the sailboat. In order to influence the sailboat, we have to influence the wind. And in our analogy, the wind is motivation. So in order to influence behavior, we have to influence motivation. And what influences motivation is emotions. Emotions influence motivation by influencing the intensity, the persistency, and the priority. Remember, we can influence emotions by prioritizing those 5 needs, the Meet the Needs method: safety, comfort, autonomy, belonging, and competency. Meet the needs. Gain more smiles. Meet needs to prevent behavior. That's my slogan. If you'd like to learn more about the Meet the Needs method or the strategies that I use in my classroom involving the 5 needs, click on the link in the description for the Behavior and Needs Detective. It is an ebook that describes all of the needs, struggles that certain students have that leave them with these needs compromised, environmental factors that might compromise these needs, and it includes case studies and the Meet the Needs workshop. And if you would like to bring this training into your school or district, the Meet the Needs training is a 5-hour cooperative learning experience where I train your staff and teachers on the science of behavior, motivation, and needs in the classroom. Described as comprehensive and expertly delivered, this training explores how the 5 needs influence the emotion and behaviors of our students, ourselves, and our loved ones. The Meet the Needs training includes interactive and universal strategies, storytelling, and personal connection to engage teachers and deepen their understanding and connection to the emotions and motivation of their students. Check out the Meet the Needs training in the description below. Bye everybody, I will see you all for part 3 of the series. See you next time.